Yo, 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 welcome back to White Dads Can't Jump, here with the main man, Chad. Main man, how's it going?
Going good. How you doing? I just got done eating some chicken,
Okay.
so we can talk about that next week. But yeah, I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing very good. For those of you that are out on the joke, we have started doing chicken reviews. So we are going to be dropping those about once a week. And so if you need to know where the go-to spots are for chicken, it is going to be coming to a YouTube screen near you.
That's
I
right.
I actually talked to one of our, I guess I should say, our avid listener today, and she said that she didn't know that we were on YouTube. So I filled her in and said, "Hey, you got to come check us
Goodness,
out because that's where some of our really good stuff is." Like
I feel
Chad,
like we've been telling everybody.
yeah, like Hannah beating Chad at video games or whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
So this weekend, it was starting to get a little warm out there, sports fans.
yeah. What makes me laugh? So my parents are up in northwestern PA, and I just got off the phone with my dad like 5 minutes ago, and he's like, "Oh, it's getting hot out." And I said, "How hot is it?" He's like 92. I said, "Oh." I said, "It's been 92 for 4 weeks, and it'll be that way for the next 4 months."
Do they get the humidity as bad up there?
No, not as bad,
Okay,
but
because
it's shocking to them because I mean it was like 72 last week.
yeah. Yeah, right. It's the abrupt change that, according to your mother and grandmother, also makes everyone sick too.
Yes. Oh, that's summer colds because that temperature change.
And this always reminds me of John Candy in Cool Runnings. They leave the airport in Montreal with the Jamaican bobsled team, and they're walking out in the middle of winter to the bus. And, in classic Disney fashion, they have icicles hanging off their beards by the time they
Yeah.
make it the 10 steps to the bus. And John Candy, as they're loading up, goes, "It's not the heat that'll get you, it's the humidity."
Cool Runnings. That's a deep pool. I bet most of our listeners have no idea what that is, but you should check it out. That was a big hit back in like 93.
Listen, if you're down with John Candy, you can't go wrong. I mean, like, if you think John Candy's funny, that's definitely up there on one of his classic. So,
Yeah, feel the rhythm. Feel the ride. Everyone ready? It's bobsled time.
and I watched that recently with my kids, and when they crash, the driver says to the brake man, he goes, "Cinca, you dead?"
You
He
dead man.
goes, "You dead, man?" He goes, "Yeah, man."
Kisses the egg.
Yeah, I will not. I'm not kissing your head. Get that thing away from me. Sorry, you have to see the movie to catch all this. Okay, so moving on. So then this weekend, we had a relative come into town from out of town, which was nice because it brought some of the other family together and we did ribs. So I'm going to brag.
Kansas City style.
Well, they actually, technically, they were St. Louis ribs, but we did them Kansas City style. And so my brag here is that I got the big green egg to turn on and stay steady. Have you ever tried to cook on a green egg? A grill master one time said it's like driving a Ferrari. I mean, it's just every little thing is so nuanced because
Hmm.
you're controlling the heat based on the airflow. And so you have to adjust the vents top and bottom to get the perfect amount of airflow to get it right where you want it. But if you can do it, it is like a precision instrument, like a Ferrari. So I managed to turn this thing on an hour before we need it. I get, everything heated and started and going. It stays steady at 225 degrees for 6 hours, ladies and gentlemen.
Man, I bet that
Six
fell off.
hours.
I bet
And
that.
it rained. And it rained. So, yes, it absolutely fell off the bone. I got no credit because the other relatives who made the rub that went on the steaks, they claimed victory for everything. And I'm like, well, would you want to eat these cold? But then,
Right.
we backed away from that conversation.
It's funny you mentioned the green egg, because that is a good comparison with the Ferrari. Because people don't realize that there's skill involved in a lot of nice things. Like you just can't. These aren't plug and play instruments,
This is why we can't have nice things because you guys
right?
think this is easy.
Right. You can't just go buy the green egg and
Right.
then expect
Oh, we're doing
perfection.
burgers.
Yeah,
Okay,
let me
we'll
get the
see.
green egg out because it's one of those things that became mainstream, so people just assume it's easy to use. So how many green eggs are just stored away in people's garages
Yeah, and for
after
sale
the
on
first failure? Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace. I'm sure
Oh
you
my
can give
gosh,
us
yeah.
that
If I
stat.
clicked one, then they'd come up on constantly.
So, I did think this was funny. Another relative. So I told you it rained during our cook off here. And one of the relatives, we literally lose power for a blink. Everything goes black, but just for a blink, it comes straight back. And one of the relatives looks at me and goes, "Oh my God, the grill, is it messed up?" I go, uh, I go, "No, it's a gas grill." They go, "Okay, but the power didn't affect it." No, the power didn't affect it.
What generation is this
We're,
person in
we're
from?
good. We're good. I can't say that.
It's either a small child or an old person.
No, it was not it was a well-grown adult.
Okay.
So have you ever, okay, now I want you to think here. Have you ever had a moment where, and it's even better if it's somebody in your family, specifically Jamie's family is even better, where they look at you and they say something where you're like, you can't be serious right now, are you?
I'm sure my family had, but I remember one time,
Yeah.
girl I dated in college,
Uh-huh.
she, honest to God, thought that leather came from tree bark.
Another
And
tree down for that Gucci bag.
this was, I remember it specifically because we were in the parking lot in between classes in college
Uh-huh.
and it was cold. I don't even remember the context of the conversation, but I just remember that. And that was one of those like instant, this was early, very early cell phone days. So I had to get my flip phone out. I had to make sure I could only talk for a couple minutes because I was burning 10 cents a minute on my prepaid Virgin mobile card.
Some would argue she didn't have a ton of interesting things to say.
So I popped it open and I called a couple people to tell them this story because it was as ridiculous as it could be.
That's good. One of the smartest people I know who did like electrical engineering, I think all the way, I think he got his PhD in electrical engineering, super smart guy. He's somewhere in his graduate program and we're having a meal one day and he dead ass looks at me. And when I say, hey, oh, yeah, pickles. And he goes, yeah. I go, you know what those are, right? And he goes, yeah, they're pickles. Like you grow a pickle. I'm like, kind of, but not really. He was almost 30 when he figured out the origin story behind pickles, and that was a little bit of a mind blower for him. I mean, I think as adults we all have those things where some piece of information that everybody else commonly understood just sort of got past us.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we are from probably the last generation that had this common knowledge, and I don't know where it came from. I guess maybe just sitting around watching Jeopardy or what it might have been. Because nowadays, I would bet that there's a large swath of young people that do not know where pickles come from or raisins
Well,
or
no doubt. And I think that I wouldn't even, I mean, Jeopardy, sure, maybe, but I think it's just interacting with people, like sitting in your grandma's kitchen and
that's what it
having
is.
her tell you about cooking. So
Or she was like literally pickling something,
yeah, and you're like,
canning.
what are you doing? And she's like, "Oh, just canning. What's bad?" "Oh, okay." And you actually have a conversation compared to you just being in the phone the whole time. So I will
Yeah.
give my grandma credit. Both my grandmas were really good cooks. One of them was really great she did sweet tea and fried chicken, but she was from South Carolina. You would have never guessed. My other grandma was excellent at ordering lunches at the club. I never knew anybody that could order a better lunch than her.
Yeah. So I would do 2 weeks at each grandma in the summer.
Uh-huh.
And so you'd spend a lot of time. It's funny because what you could get away with one grandma, you could not get away with another grandma.
Not all
So
grandmas
you
are
really
made
had to
created equal.
play which one you're going to get away with, what you can get away with. So yeah,
Yeah.
I remember some good memories. It's unfortunate because again, I feel like obviously kids are raised by the internet
Yeah,
or
nowadays.
tablets. So I don't know. I assume obviously there's still situations where they're hanging out with their grandparents, but I feel like there's such an onus on the adults now to entertain kids instead of just. I mean, I would do puzzles. We would just sit.
Right.
She
Yeah,
would crochet.
have
There'd be
you looked at your
crocheting.
kid and said, "It's your responsibility to keep yourself entertained right this second"? Like,
Yeah, constantly saying, "I am not your toy."
I am on step 26 of this IKEA project, and it is your job to figure out what you're gonna do right now.
The phrase, "Do you see what I'm doing right now?"
If I've said it
is
once,
uttered every day in my house. Every day.
I think that's
Or,
classic parenting.
"You haven't talked to me for the last hour."
Right, and now
And
is
now.
when
Right.
you right.
The drill. You heard the drill. "Oh, I'm gonna go ask if we can go play pickleball."
He must be up to something. "Dad, did you say you needed me?" So there actually was a little bit of a did you hear the boom from the current event this weekend?
Yeah, the ripple effect.
Yeah, there's a little boom in the air,
Some
vibration.
liberal heads exploding around. I'm sure there was no, what we should have done. If we would have had some inside knowledge, we should have put in some stock on Iranian flags because people are going to be buying those like crazy to take to the rallies.
As we discussed last week at the immigration rallies. Okay, I had another relative this weekend, and this was at trying to think whether this happened before or after. I think this happened a little bit before we found out because, Trump came on at 10. And so it was
Yeah,
before Trump came on, there was leaks, like things were happening and there was scattershot reporting. He goes, I had a relative say to me, I said, I wonder if they sent the bunker buster over there to get rid of the nuclear sites that were underground. And he says, no, those went to Guam. And I said, okay. I said, all things considered, Guam is in the neighborhood, like admittedly not next door to Iran, but, closer than Missouri. And
yeah, that's very strange. We can talk about that later.
so I just sort of put that out there as I hear what you're saying and I'm not arguing with you, but I think that maybe. So then 30 minutes later, Trump comes on and we get more detailed reporting on what's going on. He goes, you'll never believe it. They dropped the bunker buster. I'm like, I do believe it. And tell me what happened. He goes, they sent a fake set of B-2s, not to say that the planes were fake, but the
Right?
decoy
Yeah,
set to Guam. I said, in my mind, I said, you mean they tricked you?
I was
There are
apparently that's
conversations you don't have with relatives that are in town. There's just things you let go.
yeah, because you don't want to be like you're wrong.
Right. Right.
Is this the same person with the green egg?
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh my god! But apparently, this whole situation was the plot of Top Gun Maverick.
I mean, except for Top Gun, of course, have a need to get down in some sort of canyon mountain, right? And the mission couldn't be accomplished without them zigzagging. Whereas these
Right.
B2s went at 50,000 feet and just sort of went boop.
Well, I mean, the general idea is the same,
Okay, got it.
which is why Tom Cruise is getting the honorary Oscar that we talked about last week.
I love that they're like, this was a highly technical mission. It was 37 hours. They had to refuel multiple times. I'm like, they didn't invent the B2 yesterday. Like,
Right.
they've tested the refueling capability. They've got it sorted. Like, I'm not denying that there wasn't some logistical planning that needed to go into this, but it seems like dropping bombs is literally what you made this thing for, and it's done it before. So,
Well, it's interesting to the point of the flight time is that Missouri, when he came on and said they're safely back in Missouri, I was like, what?
literally, they were like, what air base is in Missouri? And being from Kansas City, I knew what was
Yeah.
there.
I wonder which way they go.
I would
I mean, it's almost like in the middle, is it not?
Yeah,
Like, are we almost at like a perfect other side of the world?
I don't know, but most of the time they go over the poles. Like the longest flight is from New York to Singapore, and it's 20 commercial flight that is. And it's like 21 hours, I want to say. And they go right over the pole to get there. And that's how most of those, around the world flights don't really go around the world because anybody that's ever held
this
a
one,
ball
they
knows that's
probably
the
would have to.
longest.
I assume they had to go over because I mean, once you're at the poles, you're going over Russia and China, which is probably a no go
Unless it's a big zigzag, yeah.
for these types of flights. So
I mean, the upside is that if you as you come over, and again, we're sitting here talking like we have any idea. If we just turned on Fox News for 5 minutes, we could get the real information. But from my aviation experience, the B-2 bomber, if you refueled it right as it came over the Arctic, would have enough fuel to fly over Russia and drop the bomb and turn around and come back and then refuel again over the Arctic without having a fuel issue. Now, it flew did you see those really cool shots where it was accompanied by, the F-15s, the F-18s? Was that you?
no.
Okay.
Happy birthday.
For those of you on audio, Chad just gave me birthday balloons.
There's some balloons floating on. Maybe when you said really cool, I don't know. Maybe there's like a trigger.
Really cool. I don't know what that was.
Nope. Okay.
Okay. So, but there was a really cool shots of the accompanying airplanes, the F-15s, the F-35s that were next to it. And so obviously those F-35s will get picked up on radar. But if you get the B-2s by them, you strip those out and you get the B-2s by themselves, their whole job is to not get picked up on radar. So theoretically, you could have just jetted it over and spun it around.
Yeah. I was watching have you watched Masters of Air while we're on the subject on
I
Apple? It's basically the Band of
Oh,
Brothers, but for the Air
yeah. I
Force, or
did,
not the
yeah.
Air Force because there's not an Air Force
Who's
yet.
the famous person in that?
Austin something.
Okay, gotcha.
He was Elvis in the Elvis
Yes.
movie. Austin Butler.
Yes.
So I watched the first episode and they're flying over the channel in their bombers and there's like 15 of them and they're flying in formation and then they're just dealing with shelling. Like it's crazy. Like the difference between modern aerial dogfighting, and which I don't know if that happens anymore, but any type of aerial fighting or bomb dropping compared to 1945, my God, like
Right.
it'd be terrifying. Like completely uncharted waters or uncharted airspace. You're just flying around hoping you don't get hit.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I think that maybe what's even more terrifying, I mean, yes, that is terrifying, but at least you've got a chance compared to the surface to air missile, the SAM, that just goes whoop
Yeah.
and lights you up. Like you've got that little dinger that goes warning, warning,
Yeah.
boom. Like, well,
Yeah. Well,
crap.
it's funny too, because in that movie, once it's in the clouds, they can't see.
Right. You're bingo at
So
that
like
point.
they need visual confirmation to drop their payload. So they just turn around. That's the first episode. Like they fly and they just turn around because they can't see anything and they're just getting shot at like crazy. And fighter jets are flying around.
This isn't as
It's
fun
nuts.
as
And
you.
what's the other crazy thing too? And every time I watch these shows like Band of Brothers, specific to this one, is the realization that these guys leading these missions and running these missions are like 22 years old,
Yeah.
like 24 years old. Like if you're 24, like so many people die, you're like promoted so fast. You're in your early 20s and you're like commanding people in the battlefield. You think of the 18-year-olds we know or the kids that we've taught earlier and they're in their 20s now. You imagine putting your life in their hands or your life in your, oh my God,
Certainly not all of them.
the maturity of the people. I guess you mature quickly when you're in that situation.
Yeah, you grew up real quick, I would imagine.
So it's nothing I ever want to be a part of, that's for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of not wanting to be a part of anything anymore, the sleep divorce is very trending right now. So amongst married couples, they are now sleeping in separate beds.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Are you a practicer of this?
No, but we have a king. So, I mean, basically, yeah. So we had a period of time when we had the queen still. I think I was sleeping in the other room for a while. Maybe that's just because our bed was crappy. But yeah, before we bought the house together, we had separate bedrooms in the house we were living in. And I was all for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon. Like you want to go to bed at different times, you want to stay up
Yeah.
later, you want to, yeah, all sorts of different
You
things.
roll around differently.
Right. And you feel like a teenager when you like sneak into the other room at the appropriate time and all that kind of good stuff. Yeah.
Like I was coughing for a couple nights, so I went and slept in the other room.
Right. Get out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I don't know, people just decided that you're supposed to do it, so then it just caught on as a cultural norm,
Right.
and
I
then
I think that it can lead to like genuinely healthier sleep. I'm not saying it's a healthier marriage thing, but I do think that possibly sleeping, getting your best night rest might not be bad. Where we sort of cross over the chasm here is if you're in that separate bedroom and you are now chatting with your new AI girlfriend or boyfriend, however the case may be. I think that that might be a boundary issue.
yeah.
And I know that you think that I'm just making these AI stories up or that I like spend all week trying to seek these things out. I'm telling you that this is obviously we're living in the age of AI.
Yeah,
This
I've
is
had
what keeps coming
conversations
up.
with Gemini.
Go on.
We talked about space one day. It
You guys
was
talk about
really
kids or what'd you talk about?
no, like space.
Oh, okay. Space.
It
Yeah.
was very insightful because now they're saying we might be in a black hole,
We
like we exist in a
ourselves.
black hole.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear
I
that.
don't know the technical parts of that. When we get the rocket scientist on, we'll ask him about that.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, that's the newest thing with the James Webb. Is that what it's called?
A telescope.
Yeah. And that we might be in a black hole.
What I recently read was that, 70% of the universe is made up of dark matter. Oh, that's a lot. Anybody want to offer an explanation as to what all that dark matter is doing out there?
Yeah, that's when when we had Father Rick on, unfortunately the Pope had just passed, so we didn't get to dive into kind of like
Yeah.
extraterrestrial thoughts and how that plays out with the church and theology and all that. Because I do think it's a very interesting crossroad. The more we learn or theorize about creation and how that plays with the church's view of creationism and all that, I think we're gonna a very near future at a kind of a breaking point between those two things.
Well, so I think that leads to sort of a interesting question. If you could live forever, would you? If you could see how this whole thing played out.
Man, I think it's hard because we can't wrap our minds around infinite time. Like forever is like hard. How do you even comprehend that? Because you think about the way humans have progressed over the last 10,000 years. So you look at there's like this dark period for 90% of it, and then this explosion of technology and ideas and thought. And so, like, where does it go from here? Is that a world that I even want to live in?
Well,
Now, in this scenario, am I still my age now, or do I just keep aging?
well, and there's a couple of follow-up questions that seem pretty obvious. Like, number one, are you aging? Number two, are you immortal? Like, could you die if something were to happen? Given that nothing claimed your morality, or not your morality, something's already done that. If nothing, if nothing claimed your mortality, could you just continue to live on forever? And I think it's a good question. So
I
if you,
think I would
at the age
say
you're at now with the click shoulder,
can't swim forever.
right, you'll
Well, I
never
mean,
swim.
obviously, you go through the idea that you have to deal with the death of all your loved ones, and then you'd have to start over again.
Well, don't sound too excited about that.
This
We
was
get the separate bedroom thing.
actually, I think, a plot line of the TMNT animated Ninja Turtles movie from the guy that he just lived forever, the villain. But anyway,
Okay.
that was one of his complaints was like everyone, you just watch everybody die and then you got to kind of start over. So that would be sad because it's kind of like Interstellar. You've seen Interstellar, right?
A long time ago.
So at the end, like he comes back and finds his daughter, but his daughter is like 95 years old and he's still his same age. Like he doesn't know her. It's still his daughter. And she's just like, oh, go off and do whatever you need to do kind of thing. So, I mean, I think that movie brings up an interesting concept because when they go to one planet, like 2 minutes on that planet equals like 10 years on our planet. So if we're playing by the rules of Earth time versus space time, there's just so many variables to that. To answer the question, I think intellectually, I would say I would want to, because I think knowing would be interesting, but I also think knowing could also be the curse that you would have to then live with. Because now you can still live in this kind of world where you can have faith and theory versus fact.
Yeah. But yeah, to your point, you would actually, you're like, no, no, I was there. I saw the whole thing go down.
Right. Now, I do think maybe there's some truth in like past lives.
Oh,
If we get a
really?
little crazy, because I just
Okay.
wonder, like, how many sets of consciousness can there exist over time? Like, there's got to be some duplication in there. Like, how many different variations of personality and consciousness can exist over billions of
So not necessarily that
entities?
the same, not that one person has it, but that there's only so many archetypes of people, and so they
Well,
have to
like,
be repeated.
did I exist as the exact same form? No, I'm saying like your code just gets replaced. Like, it just keeps repeating.
Yeah.
So, like, we've lived in the past, but we obviously don't have any memory of it. But, like, the version of us, because there's only so many variations that can be numerically. I don't know. I mean, there's probably an infinite number of that also.
Yeah, I think so. I think that somebody who probably wants there to not be multiple lives, or maybe they do want there to be multiple lives, is the guy who lost to the cat in the Ohio town mayoral election,
He lost to the cat. That happens quite often.
to the tabby cat Whiskers. The tabby
What
cat,
party is the cat?
I mean, it's Ohio, so I think
Yeah, that's
that
true. It's got to be rural Ohio if a cat's winning. So,
right. I think so. They ended up allowing the cat to simply be honorary. And so they asked him on some of what his policies were going to be. Apparently, he was for small town politics. We're not even reading this. Whatever dope wrote this for him. More tuna, fewer dogs. Okay, never mind. I thought that was going to be more interesting. I just assume, it's like it's happened in politics too, like that you lose to a dead man. Like the person, national senate races or whatever. You're running for national senate, the other guy dies and you still
Right.
lose.
Right.
Whoops.
Or they're incapable of putting a sentence together. Thank God for AutoPen.
I don't know what you're talking about. So the other issue that we're facing today is have you ever been to Boston? Okay. In Boston, you know what a duck ride is? Okay.
They have them all over the place.
Okay. Boston's pretty sure that they were the founding fathers of the Constitution and the duck ride. And there is a duck ride crisis going on in Boston this summer. They are completely overcrowded. And I can tell you what the problem with that is that I got on the duck and my then 35-pound son immediately sat on my lap and fell asleep. I have never been so hot in my entire life at any point as driving through the Boston summer with a heat box on my lap.
Yeah.
Like, if the boat stopped for any minute, I was like, oh, keep it moving. Tell them the history
Yes.
later.
Just so people know, the boat's not on water.
It is right. It is a amphibious vehicle that can go up. It starts on land and then you go splash into the water. Have you done a boat ride or a duck ride anywhere?
No, but they had them in DC, so I've seen them.
Got no burning desire to go.
No, open air things don't excite me because it's so hot.
Okay.
We're too cold.
That was definitely my experience.
I would never be a convertible owner.
Well, let me ask you this. If you found yourself in Nashville and you were at a vending machine, you're at a dive bar and there's a vending machine, and the vending machine is very clearly labeled mystery meat vending machine. And it has unlabeled cans of meats like possum, rattlesnake, or Spam for $5 a pop. How do you feel about this?
I wouldn't do that. There's no way I'd put $5 in any machine, let alone for that.
In any machine ever?
No, that's way too much.
What do you feel like is a good price point for possum?
Is it fried? Was it fresh? What is? I mean, you pop an old can of.
I mean, if it's in a can, I don't know. You know what? It's probably pickled. That's probably what they did to those little
Start out
guys.
as a cucumber possum.
Right. That's exactly right. Well, we went to go see Elio, the new Disney movie.
That was quite the flop.
You pretty excited about that one? Did it flop at the box office?
Yeah, bad.
Sorry to hear that. Well, we did our part. And okay. So here we go, dads. Here's what I figured out. Regal Cinemas, they offer unlimited movies. So it's depending on the theater that you want to go to. It's somewhere between $21 and $25 a month. And so pretty much what that breaks down to is in the summertime, if you got some free time, and especially if you live in a place that's hot, so you're looking for indoor activities, if you go see a movie, or I guess if you see 3 movies every 4 weeks, you absolutely come out on top of that deal.
Is that per person or for the family?
Yeah, no, per person.
Okay.
So I think it's like $23 for unlimited movies per person. So if you're because movies are expensive. Even matinees are expensive. They're $10 a pop now.
I remember them being, this was summer of like 96, but they were like $3.75.
You're like the guy talking about the price of gas when he was.
And we had the dollar theater.
Literally, one of the relatives, obviously an older one, said that he remembers when he said that his job that he supported his family on paid him $1.85 an hour. So not yesterday.
Wow.
But bread was 17 cents. So you get a whole loaf of bread for 17 cents.
Right.
That's like a whole different paradigm.
Yeah. 'Cause I remember even in the first Toy Story movie, they go to the gas station with the Pizza Planet truck.
It's $1 something.
I think the gas is like $1.09.
Yeah.
For the cheap stuff. And that was in like 95.
Yeah. Well, guess what? If we keep blowing up the Middle East, I'm not sure what's going to happen to the gas prices here. So far so good, because your main man Trump went on and said that it is in everyone's best interest. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. hard elbow, sharp elbow there. It is in everyone's best interest to not take advantage of the situation and keep gas prices steady. I
Yeah,
agree
I
with him.
wonder when are we gonna have a or let me ask you this, is there a unifying event possible any longer
How do you mean?
as a collective country? Because I don't know if there is anything that is political that we can all get behind.
Oh, yes. Well, I say this. You're going to tell me I'm wrong, and I know why, but I'm going to say it anyways. I think that at a minimum, reducing our budget should be something that should be fairly unifying.
No way. That means cuts.
Honestly,
Or you either have to raise taxes or you have to cut things, and either side's
you
gonna be mad
don't have
about
to
each of those things.
actually, that's mathematically not totally true. You just have to stop adding. If you stopped adding, like if you said, okay, today, as it is right now, we're just not going to add any more to it. And the GDP continue to grow the way that it has been, it will actually self correct. What you have to do is you simply just have to stop right here, right now, where you are. And given enough time horizon, 15, 20 years, it will actually self correct. The problem is that we won't even leave it alone. We can't even agree on the idea that we need to just stop adding more to it in order to have it self correct. And yeah, I knew you were going to say that's not going to work, but I mean, logistically, it's what we need as a country. We need to become a little bit fiscally, more fiscally responsible because we already know that Asia at large and specifically China is trying to come off the dollar. And that's not something that happens overnight, but it's one of those things that once the snowball starts going down the hill, it's incredibly hard to stop. And if we lose our place as the default currency worldwide, that is going to have big implications for our debt. So I believe that, there's a lot of different scenarios and ways that this thing can work out. But at the end of the day, we desperately need to address it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with fiscal responsibility is that there's so many people that don't practice fiscal responsibility, and that means Congress people, individuals, families. Like, there is no real reason anymore, I guess, to be fiscally responsible because debt is just a part of life. Debt is just part of the budget. So, I mean, people don't worry about fiscal responsibility. They say, I see this. I want, and obviously the internet, social media doesn't help that because everybody wants to see what everybody else has. And then they are buying crap because everybody else has it, or they're spending $10,000 on something stupid when they shouldn't do that. So I think the government, it's just, I mean, we all know there's so much waste going on. Like every day something comes out that so and so took $500 million, or these people embezzled this, or the Bidens in China are sending money here and there. So like there's so much money. Ukraine, like there's so much money
Right.
going all these places. And the solution obviously is either stop spending money or raise more money, which you raise money by taxing people, which then that pisses people off.
No, you raise money by selling $5 million green cards
Yeah, that was
to
my next
rich
part, yeah.
people.
Or you sell $5 million, which honestly isn't a terrible idea.
No,
I mean, if you're gonna bring in money, if you're gonna bring people in and they have to pay to do it, that
right.
seems like a winning, and they get to cut the line. It's like a fast pass.
Name something that you bought that as you were buying it, you thought, I can't afford this, but you bought it anyways.
Thing that I bought that I couldn't afford. There's not a lot. I mean, I usually don't buy things in general. So, I mean, I've definitely had more frivolous purchases that I've regretted later,
Okay, what's one of those?
but I afforded them at the time, but I still was like, well, I bought a house one time in Virginia with a girl I was dating. That was a terrible idea.
That was mine is 2 houses ago, I bought a house and I'm like, it was my first house in Florida and it was not the most expensive house I ever owned, but at the time I was like, "Ooh boy, might be rice and beans and rice might be on the buffet here for a little bit." But it's one of those things where life sort of works its way out and you make a little more money and you find a way to make some shifts happen to make it make sense. I think houses, even if you get a little risky with those, it's hard to go wrong on a house.
Yeah, I mean, houses, obviously, there's hidden expenses that people don't know about. or not really hidden, or just ignorant expenses like utility bills, and everything costs more than you expect it to. So I think you could easily run into a situation where you're like, oh, I can afford the mortgage,
Yeah, what could go wrong?
but I can't afford, or when I'm obviously when people are doing those jumbo loans.
Yeah, and the interest rate's gonna bounce on you. And I don't
Yeah.
think and it's not I don't think it's the utilities. I mean, if you have an apartment, you have utilities. It's the if you have an apartment and the AC breaks, you call the landlord.
Yeah, that's true.
If you have
That's
a
true.
$10,000 AC break and you're the homeowner, well, now you've got a $10,000 bill you've got to sort out some way, somehow.
Right. I've taken back to watching like lakefront renovations the last few weeks because I've been doing the renovations at home,
Yes.
making the room into a home office, which I spent 4 hours doing today.
Good. Are we
I've
done?
been almost
Okay.
but they'll buy the house and then they start renovating it and they find mold, or like the subfloor doesn't, or the deck needs replaced. Then suddenly they're like, oh, my budget was 50,000 for renovations, but we spent 85 because we do this, and this, or you have to cut costs in other spots. So I mean, it's a crazy gamble, obviously, every time you buy, especially an older house.
Yeah.
But we got pretty lucky on ours. We didn't find anything yet that is
Yeah. Well, keep looking.
majorly probably. It's been 10 years, so we're still pretty good until the pool
Right.
falls out or sinkhole or something happens.
And for a roof.
Yeah, well, we have a tile, so hopefully those supposed to last longer. So
Nice. All right. So we are in hot movie summer here. We talked about Elio not being such a great one, but there are a lot of good movies coming up this summer. So let's round this out with give us your top 5 summer blockbuster movies, starting with number 5,
of all time,
all time.
man. All right, all time summer blockbusters. I would say, I know we talked about this one before back in probably episode 2, but the first movie I saw in a renovated theater in Erie was Independence Day.
Yes.
That was one with like, we had the big screen, like the banging sound system. And that was like the epitome of, and it had like the lead up with the White House blowing up and the Empire State Building blowing up. Like that was like,
True
that's
blockbuster.
true blockbuster. Yeah, that was like the summer blockbuster, because it used to be a little different. Because now it's just Marvel movies come out wherever, but it
Right.
used to be like Memorial Day weekend was like the true start, and then they kicked it up to really just the first week of May. That was like, we got to save our big movies until May, and then the big summer rush, and then you got May, June, July. So I would put Independence Day up there for sure as a big summer blockbuster. Let me think here. The Dark Knight, when that came out,
Oh yeah, good call.
that was a big one. The first Spider-Man,
Well, okay. Yeah,
Tobey
that was
Maguire one,
yeah. Well, not even Toby. It was also about her.
Kirsten
Kristen
Dunst,
Kirsten
Kirsten Dunst.
Dunst. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she was Mary Jane in that. Yeah, that was another big summer blockbuster. Trying to think what I would see as a kid. I don't really remember as
The
a
Rock,
kid.
classic summer blockbuster.
I didn't really I saw it, but it wasn't one that I was like dying to see.
I don't think we have anything else to talk about here tonight.
It was just, it was happening. So we went to see it.
Yeah.
And obviously, again, with the explosions and
I think so. Top Gun Maverick obviously made
yeah, that's the
history
most
as
recent
summer
summer
blockbuster.
Yeah.
Huge banger. Absolutely. All right. Well,
Yeah, I think there's a dead zone there
no
in like
doubt.
the Marvel era, because like I said, they were just putting movies out whenever, and it was just so constant that I don't know
They threw off the
when the
timeline.
yeah, and then we kind of lost the big explosive movies because it was all comic book stuff. So you didn't have kind of the Michael Bay
Yeah.
Transformers, the first Transformers. That was a big summer blockbuster.
That
when
was a good
came
one.
out.
Fantastic Four is coming out. So everyone needs to stay tuned for that.
They did the gender swap on the Silver Surfer, so we'll see how that plays out.
Oh, okay. You'll have to fill me in on the details of that.
Yeah, I will not be seeing that. Not Spider-Man, Superman's coming out. That's one I'm also a little cautious on. Have you seen the trailers for Spider-Man
I
or Superman?
Did where he's getting interviewed by the reporter.
Yeah, he looks very angry. It just looks like there's a lot of wacky side characters. Like I get, like it was in the comics, like I get it, but like I didn't read the comics, like I don't care. Like I just want the headline stories. Like I don't need Bizarro or whoever the hell all these other people are.
Just need the meat and potatoes.
Just give me. I don't need the dog. I don't need any of that crap. What
All
other
right.
ones are coming out this summer? I don't even know.
I think this week is F1 with Brad Pitt.
That I do want to see that actually,
Yeah.
because that definitely, obviously they're trying to bill it as like Top Gun, And I love Brad Pitt anyway, and F1 stuff is somewhat interesting. I don't watch it, but I could get interested in watching that kind of behind the scenes thing.
I think Brad Pitt could draw you in.
And I like that kind of the old guy coming back. But I always worry about these movies, and this was my concern about Top Gun Maverick and the last Mission Impossible is like, are they going to kill off the old guy in like a self-sacrifice kind of way?
Yeah, maybe. They can't.
I don't
Yeah.
know how you do that in a racing movie.
Well, I mean, it's called The
Or
Wall.
like he'll lose or something very close, or like he'll do something to make himself not win. I don't know, something like that. So I'm always nervous about that because I start getting like actually anxious because have a desired outcome going into these movies. Like Top Gun Maverick, I definitely thought they were going to kill him in that. But going back to Tom Cruise, I think he only dies in like one of his movies.
Which one's
I
that?
don't know if he has like a no death clause, but like he doesn't die.
Well, he's the executive producer, so he gets to call the shots.
Right. Because I mean, you think about all his movies, like he doesn't die in any of them.
Yeah, you know that part is going to be true, right?
So I was like, they can't kill him all. And plus, if this one does well, there's gonna be a third one. So
It'll just be the world blows up and he lives on Mars by himself. All right. All right. Well, dads, here we go. You have got a couple summer blockbusters to look forward to. Sounds like Chad's pretty excited about Fantastic Four. Everybody else can go see F1. And main man, anything else for tonight?
if you made it this far, 45-minute mark, hopefully you subscribe.
Right. We'd love it if he did. All
Keep
right.
an eye out for the chicken videos.
Watch out for the chicken and be good.